Welcome back to Senior Benefits Insider. I'm really glad you're here with me today. Take a second, get comfortable, maybe grab a cup of coffee, because this update is important and I want to walk through it calmly and clearly, just like we're sitting across the table from each other. If you've been feeling overwhelmed by headlines, rumors, or half-truths floating around online, you're in the right place. My goal has always been to give you straight, honest information without the hype or the fear. Now let me tell you why today's update matters so much, especially if you're a senior, on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or living on a fixed income. Over the last few months, there's been a lot of talk about a possible $2,000 payment. Some people are calling it a stimulus check. The president has been calling it a dividend payment. And I know many of you have been waiting, watching your bank account, checking the mail, and wondering if this is real or just another empty promise. Well, yesterday, we finally got a meaningful update straight from the White House, and for the first time in a long time, this isn't just vague talk. There are actual details, a potential timeline, and clearer eligibility guidance than we've had before. Before we go any further, if you're new here, welcome. I'm the voice behind Senior Benefits Insider, and for years I've been covering Social Security updates, cost of living changes, Medicare, stimulus programs, and financial relief that affects people like us. I do this because I've lived it. I know what it's like to worry about groceries costing more every week while your income stays the same. I know how stressful it is when one unexpected bill can throw everything off. So when I share updates like this, I'm doing it with you in mind. Alright, let's talk about what's actually happening with these $2,000 payments. The president has been talking about this idea since last summer, referring to them as dividend payments instead of traditional stimulus checks. The basic concept is that tariff revenue from international trade could be returned directly to American households. That's the foundation of this proposal. Now, back in November, Treasury officials suggested that if these payments happen, they would be targeted to households earning under $100,000 per year. That income figure keeps coming up, and that's important. Here's something I want to slow down and really make clear, because this is where a lot of confusion comes in. If you're on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or you're a senior who doesn't normally file a tax return, that does not automatically disqualify you. This is not about whether you're working. It's not about whether you paid payroll taxes last year. It's about your income level. If your total income is under that $100,000 threshold, you could qualify. Period. I've had so many seniors tell me they assumed they'd be left out, and based on what we know right now, that assumption just isn't accurate. Yesterday, White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett gave an interview that finally moved this conversation forward. And this is someone worth paying attention to. He's not a random spokesperson. He's deeply involved in economic policy and is even being discussed as a potential future Federal Reserve chair. In this interview, he said that back in the summer, he wasn't sure there was room in the budget for these payments. But now, things have changed. The economy has seen multiple quarters of strong growth, close to 4%. The government has run a surplus for several months. And the federal deficit is down significantly compared to last year. Because of all that, he said he's now confident there actually is room for this kind of payment. Then came the most important part. He said he expects the president to bring an official proposal to Congress in the new year. That's a big deal. We're no longer talking about maybe someday. We're talking about a proposal that could formally be introduced in early 2026. That doesn't mean checks go out tomorrow, but it does mean the process could finally begin. Let me explain what happens next in simple terms. Even if the White House proposes this, Congress has to approve the money. That's just how the system works. But here's where it gets interesting and honestly a bit more hopeful. Congress is planning additional reconciliation bills over the next year or two. A reconciliation bill is a special type of legislation that can pass the Senate with a simple majority instead of the usual 60 votes. We just saw this process used recently for major tax legislation. If these $2,000 payments are included in a reconciliation bill, they can pass with fewer obstacles. That makes this proposal much more realistic than a standard standalone bill. Now let's talk timing, because I know that's what you really want to know. Kevin Hassett said early 2026 for the proposal. Based on how Washington works, that likely means sometime between January and mid-February. Once we get deeper into the spring, lawmakers are fully focused on elections, so if they want this to be part of the conversation, it needs to be introduced early. If everything moves forward smoothly, actual payments would likely arrive in the spring or early summer of 2026. That's the realistic window. So who exactly could qualify based on what we know today? Again, this is about income. Households earning under $100,000 per year are the target. Social Security retirees, SSI recipients, SSDI recipients, and seniors living on fixed incomes are included if their income falls under that level. Veterans receiving VA benefits are included. People with disabilities are included. Unemployed workers whose income has dropped could qualify as well. This is not tied to your work status or whether you file taxes every year. It's about your income and making sure the government has your information. Let me give you a real-world example. Say you're a retired couple living mostly on Social Security and a small pension, bringing in $42,000 a year. Based on what's been shared so far, you would likely qualify. Or maybe you're a widow living alone on Social Security and SSI, bringing in under $25,000. Again, you'd likely qualify. Even a senior who worked part-time last year but stayed under that income limit would still be in the running. Now, I want to talk about what you should be doing right now, because this part really matters. First, if you normally file taxes, file your 2024 return as early as you reasonably can. That's the information the IRS will likely use. Second, make sure your address and direct deposit details are up to date with the IRS. If you've moved or changed banks, update that information. Third, be careful. As soon as news like this spreads, scammers come out in full force. The IRS will never call, text, or email you asking for personal information to release a payment. Anyone who does that is not legitimate. I also want to say this clearly and honestly. This payment is not guaranteed yet. It still needs to be formally proposed and approved. But this is the most concrete and encouraging update we've had since this idea was first mentioned. The confidence from the White House has increased. The economic conditions support it. And there's a clear legislative pathway to make it happen. I know many of you are tired. Tired of waiting. Tired of hearing maybe. Tired of stretching every dollar further than it should go. I hear you. While we wait for this to play out, I strongly encourage you to check what other benefits you might qualify for right now. Programs like SNAP, Medicare savings programs, energy assistance, and state-level relief can make a real difference today, not a year from now. Let me wrap this up clearly. A $2,000 payment is being actively discussed at the highest levels. An official proposal is expected in early 2026. Income under $100,000 is the key factor. Seniors, Social Security recipients, SSI, SSDI, veterans, and people with disabilities are all part of this conversation. Nothing is final yet, but this is real movement, not just talk. If this update helped you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Senior Benefits Insider. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps make sure you don't miss important updates like this. Share this video with a friend, a family member, or a neighbor who's been asking questions about these payments. And as always, drop your questions in the comments. I read them, and I do my best to respond. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And remember,